We've combined sales and marketing into a single application. Now, the benefits behind this mean that essentially any information that you're inputting to your database from a marketing point of view, who's opening campaigns, who's clicking on links, all of that's going to be fully transparent and visible for the salesperson, which means before you pick up the phone to them, you understand the context of the prospect reaching you. Now, if you reverse that and flip the information back into the hands of marketing, what they're going to understand is, of my activities, where is my time best spent? What is creating better opportunities for the salespeople that are progressing further down the funnel? Now, on top of that, what we've created with SalesSeek is a visual layer. So in principle, at any point in time, when you're viewing either from a sales point of view, marketing point of view, or really anything within the system, you understand what's the context, what the health of the activities that I'm performing within the system, whether that be sales or marketing. Now, in terms of what we're looking at here, this is the Sales Manager dashboard. There are a number of different dashboards within the system. This one is geared up towards managing a team of people. What we can see is we can see each individual and their performance for the current period, whether that's monthly or quarterly, in relation to their target. So I can see that my colleague here, Andrew, has closed £3,000 worth of business with his target being 20. Now, if I want to understand actually what's going on with Andrew's deals, I can select his tag there and I'll be taken straight through to a view of what he would see day in, day out within his funnel. So I see all of the opportunities he's managing. Equally, I can select myself, I'll see all the deals that I have ownership of, and I can basically go through all of my colleagues and understand where they are with all of their opportunities and what's been going on. I can select back to team view to see an overview of everything. And then down here, I have a quick overview in terms of what activities or KPIs are being performed by week, month, quarter, year, whatever I need to understand what's going on with all these deals. On the left-hand side, we have the navigation bar, obviously the way that you work through the application. Down here you have the app settings, which is where you can configure pretty much anything within the system. So one of the ideas behind SalesSeek is that we've built an out-of-the-box solution. So there's no requirement to talk to someone technical. If you want to make custom configurations or changes within the system, you can just go ahead and do that. That can be things along the lines of custom fields, changing reporting periods, adding in buckets. And we've also got a number of third-party integrations. So depending on what you need to perform your day-to-day business operations, we may have something pre-created. If not, then we also have a fully open and accessible API, which will mean that you can create more bespoke integrations. Again, all of that's documented on our site. And down here you've got your personal settings, which is a case of updating your details, syncing with your calendar. We support iCal, so we sync with Outlook and Gmail, and also selecting what notifications you get and when, and then also adding in your email signature, so any campaign emails that you do send from the system look as though they're personally coming from you. We have the sales funnel, and this is very much the visualization of the product from a sales perspective. So essentially you can configure the product to meet your specific requirements in terms of that process. So there's no requirement to have a 5-step sales process. If you sell in a particularly complex approach, you can add in additional stages. If you sell in a simplistic approach, then you can rein that back in and maybe have 2 or 3 phases within your funnel. Each stage can be configured to your specific requirements. So you'll see the name, you'll see a description, so what needs to be achieved for a deal to enter or leave that phase. And you'll also see a high-level overview, so the total number of deals and the total value of all those deals. And then within each phase of the funnel, you see these bubbles, and these are what relate to your opportunities. So the size, the position, and the color put the deals into context in terms of, firstly, bigger the bubble, bigger the deal. So you can see here that this deal is larger than this, and that's reflected in terms of size. So immediately you start to understand where the value is in your funnel. Now, next is position in the sales process. So from beginning to the top to end at the bottom, where does it sit along that cycle? And then color is giving you perspective of activity. So the brighter the bubble, more recently you've had an action logged against it. So I can see that these deals here have been spoken to in less than 2 days. As the period of time goes on since you've spoken with them or interacted with them, they become more and more grayed out. So from a sales management point of view, if I'm looking at this final phase here, I can see that this deal doesn't need to be updated, but whereas this one is worth £500 and it's not been updated in around about 4 weeks. So I'm starting to understand the context about where does the value sit in my funnel, who do I need to speak with, who have I already spoken to. Now that's just context in one sense. We provide a number of different views and perspectives within the funnel. I'll just run you through another one now, which is this sink or swim view up here. What we're doing here is we're turning the funnel on its side. So the amount of time that a deal's in its respective phase of the funnel is on the vertical. So a longer a deal sits in, say, this second phase, the further it falls. So I can see that this deal down here has been in that phase for around about 4 weeks. If we get to the bottom, this deal's been down here for around about 7 weeks. Now, if I'm to move a deal from one phase to the next, 2 things are going to happen. It's going to shoot up to the top and it's going to turn bright yellow because an action's just been logged against it and it's just entered this phase of the funnel. Again, adding a different perspective about actually what's going on with all of your opportunities. So the idea here is if everything's at the top of your funnel and everything's bright yellow, then everything's being managed. As stuff starts to fall, it just probably poses the question, do you want to try and move that onto the next phase of your funnel or move it out altogether? We've created something called multi-funnel, which allows you to configure different funnels with different sales processes. So the idea behind this is if you have multiple processes for different products or services, then rather than trying to force a fit of one particular sales process and trying to force deals through that process when they don't quite fit, separate them out. You can have multiple opportunities against one organization, and then you can drive the deals in the way that they need to be driven. So essentially you can follow that process and make sure that actually each opportunity is going through all the regulation, all the process that you need to, and as I say, you can have as many of these different funnels as you need to, and they'll all appear here on the right hand side, and you have all the same functionality that we just went through on the original there. And moving over to the right hand side of the screen, what we've got here is the activity feed. And this is like the feed for all the actions going on within your organization. So you'll be able to see when deals are being moved from one phase to the next, when emails are being sent, when notes are being logged, calls are being made. All of that's captured in a chronological order, so you'll be able to get a sense of what's actually been going on within business. And then you also have a number of filters that you can apply. So you can look for specific activities or specific users within the system, whatever's relevant to you at that particular point in time. So within the task section, we allow you to view tasks by individual, by date, or by any criteria that's captured against it. So essentially you have full functionality that you'd have within the contacts reporting on the deals section. And this in principle allows you to build custom reports that you need for your tasks. To do that, all you need to do is click up here, apply a filter, change filters, select what's pending, and then you'll be brought up with new lists that's more manageable. And leads can come from any of your sources. So this is essentially an amalgamation of all the different lead sources that you may have. So this can be a case of Twitter, Facebook, manually entering them, signing up on your website. All of these are brought in here, again, chronologically, so the most recent lead will always be shown at the top. Now, in terms of converting these opportunities, it's not necessarily going to be an immediate process. If it is, then we can configure the system so that when a lead's brought in, a deal is automatically generated. But for other sales processes, there may be required some interaction. So say this opportunity down here, I have some back and forth, and I want to generate a deal against him. What I can do is I can take this particular lead, drop him into the phase of the funnel that's relevant, and then I'll be prompted to put in all the information that I know against this particular opportunity. So I can put in the name of the organization, I can put in the name of the deal, any other values that you'd expect. There's a basic requirement of a CRM that they need to fulfill. We fulfill all of that criteria, but where we differ slightly is that you can add in as many different custom fields as you need. So you can select any combination of checkboxes, drop downs, URLs, etc. All of that can be pre-configured so that everyone's working from the same sheet, so to speak, and that can be configured and later pulled out on the reporting side of the product. Now, in terms of the information that we hold, there's 3 types of records within SalesSeek. So there's individuals, organizations, and deals, and the way that those records are related is slightly different from other products. So what we've tried to do is create SalesSeek as a flat application. So in principle, you don't have to drill down from page to page. What you're looking at that's most relevant to you is shown in the center here. So right now I'm viewing a deal. If I want to go to the organization, I can see the names here. I can select the organization. I'll be taken directly through to the organization record with all that information. Again, any custom fields that I've added. If I scroll down, I'll see any individuals as well. And again, I can navigate to any of those and their record will be brought up in the center. Now, I don't lose context about where that opportunity sits because as you can see on the left-hand side here, I have the funnel so I can see where that deal is in relation to everything else. I can see the record that I'm interested in, and then on the right-hand side here, I have the context of the relationship. So I can see any time a call's been made, note that's being logged, absolutely any interaction between myself or any of my colleagues and any of the individuals at this organization or any of the deals. And as I start to scroll back, it transitions from sales to marketing. So the real value of having this activity feed beyond just being able to understand exactly where you sit with any particular prospect at any point in time is that as we scroll back through time, we'll be able to see any campaign emails that have been sent to them. So you'll be able to get context behind actually what's brought this individual. So you see here some example calls that are being made. As we scroll further back, you'll start to see personal emails. Here's an example of some of our integrations. So with Intercom, we've brought across the conversation that's going on in Intercom, the status of that particular conversation, and if it's been assigned or not. Now, when we start to go right back here, we can see some personal emails that are being sent. If I open that, you'll be able to see the content of that particular email, the date it was sent on. And then, as I said, right back at the start, we have the marketing emails. So you'll be able to see campaign emails that are being sent from the system to what individual, what they're opening, the date they're opening them on, how many times they've opened them, what they've clicked on links, etc. So all of that's adding context behind the salesperson picking up the phone, actually understanding what's brought this prospect to them. Now, as we scroll back down the record, what we'll start to see down here, other than the deals, are related files. And essentially, this is a way of you being able to hold documents against records without having to go to a Google Drive or a shared file. You can upload them directly to that record, and then when you're interested in that particular document, you don't have to jump somewhere else. You can select it, it'll automatically download, and then that'll be in your downloads file. We also have this content section, which is essentially a centralized repository of information. So if there's any documents or files or perhaps sales brochures, etc. that you need to publicly host, you can put them in here, you can share them amongst the team, update them, and know that every salesperson has the document that they need. And then they can, as I say, publicly host them so that you can share links with any prospects or any customers and know that they'll be able to access them from here by just sharing a link. Now, when we get to the bottom of the record, what we've got here is group membership. And this is where we start to tie in the reporting and the marketing side of the product. So what I'm going to do is jump to the contact section now. And essentially within SalesSeek, we have two different sorts of groups. There's smart groups and there's static groups. So as an example of a static group, essentially the group that you create is fixed. So those individuals that you choose to join it are going to remain in there. So you could create a static group, you could add a list of your favorite contacts, they'll always stay in there. Now the other sort of group that we have within SalesSeek is a smart group, and this is essentially dynamic. So what you do is you create the group, and then you can use literally any criteria within the system to segment your database and include those individuals that match the specific criteria that you're interested in. So right now I'm looking at the entirety of this database, of which there's 202 people. What I can do is I can apply a filter to say, show me just those individuals that come from the source of Facebook. And then we've whittled it down and now we're left with 11 individuals. So the way that we've constructed the database within SalesSeek essentially allows you to query any fields and any combination of fields to pull back that particular segment. So right now we're looking at any individual that's come from Facebook, but I could also say I'm interested in a custom field that I added, which is industry. And I'm only interested in those that match technology. So I've applied an AND rule, and then all those individuals are being brought in. So you can see that we're left with 4 individuals here. And the benefit of being able to do this beyond just reporting on how many individuals do I have in a specific criteria, is that we can then launch campaign emails to them. We can do that from the campaigns section. So in this section, there's a number of different emails that we can send. In principle, there's 3. So first off, there's your plain text type email. It looks something like this. So you can drop in merge tags. It's going to be personalized to the individual. You put in the body of the email that you want to send. You can use emoticons as well. And essentially, the benefit behind this one is if you go to, say, a networking event and you meet 50 people, rather than you following up with them one by one, you can add them into SalesSeek, and then very quickly, in 5 minutes, you can launch a campaign to them. When you actually select that group, so I'll select the tech group that we just created, you'll be able to see here that it's being personalized to each individual. So for all intents and purposes, for the person receiving that email, you've personally gone and sent it to them. The other sort of campaign that we can send within SalesSeek is a HTML email. And just an example of this, you'll be able to see here, it's much more graphics rich, more geared up towards marketing. Again, you can include merge tags, so it's going to be personalized for each individual. And then you can specify which group it's going to, and you can specify when it's going to go as well. So you can select the group, it'll be personalized, and then you can specify whether you're going to send it immediately or send it in the future. Now, the real value from sending within SalesSeek doesn't necessarily come with the creation of the email. The real value is held in the actual action of sending. So if I go to this sent section here, what I'm going to be able to see is a visualization of the success of the campaigns that I'm sending. So if we look at this legal campaign here as an example, we'll be able to see that 58% open rate and a 33% click rate, which is fantastic statistics from a marketing point of view. But if we consider it from more of a sales perspective, what I want to know are who are those 33% of people that are actually engaging with my content, my most qualified leads. And what we've done with SalesSeek is we allow you to access that information very quickly. So I can see here that 4 people have actually clicked on this campaign, could be 400. What I do is I select that number and I'll be taken directly through to a smart group of all these contacts that have engaged with it. Now from here, I can use my own initiative. I can either follow up with them directly via the phone. I could launch another campaign. Essentially, the information's being given back to the salesperson so they can then go and decide what they want to do with it. Now the other sort of campaign that we can also send from the system is an automated campaign, and essentially this means that we can capture leads from something like your website, bring them directly into SalesSeek, and then we can automatically send those campaign emails. And to do that, we do this with the automation section. Now just to explain how this works, what we do is we create an automation in the automation section. We select what type of record it would want to go to, so either individuals or deals. We create the smart group, which is the process that we went through earlier in the contact section. So this could be a case of individual signs up on website today. Then we look for the event. So when an individual joins that group, what we're going to do is trigger something immediately, which is to send a campaign, and we're going to specify what campaign. So you can set up these automations within your system, knowing that if any lead comes to me from my website or from anywhere else, they're automatically going to get targeted, they're automatically going to get sent an email, and you can also put time delays on those automations as well, so that on day 1 they receive this, on day 2 they receive this, and then you can set up tasks as well, so that other salespeople are going to receive notifications when someone opens a campaign or when they get a new lead, and make sure that the salesperson is getting notified about new activities that are happening within the system. Now, just to run through some of the other functionality within the product, we have this deals section here, which we use for reporting. So essentially, you can segment all of your opportunities in exactly the same way that you can with your database. So you can use any criteria to segment it. So as an example, right now, we're looking at the live funnel, example funnel that I have here. What we can do is we can apply a filter. We can say, show me any deal that has a value between £1 and £10,000. And then everything else that doesn't match that criteria will be filtered out. Essentially, you can build whatever report you need to. You can then save it as a static group, so a snapshot in time, or a smart group, so it's dynamic and it's going to change as deals either enter or leave that criteria. And then you can use those for your reporting purposes. So it could be a case of an example here, like your sales meeting. So you have a number of groups that you share across the team and you run through, Or it could be for your own personal reporting. So how did we do in Q4 of last year? Compare it with Q4 of this year. Now what we can also do with this is we convert these to forecasts, and forecasts is available on the enterprise plan. And essentially, if you've got a larger team of individuals, what you can have them do is create their own forecast in this section. So you could create all the deals that I have in a particular funnel. You can then save that as a smart group. And then from this group, what you can do is extend it so that we're not looking at the funnel view and we're looking at a more tabular type view by extending it over here. And then we can download this as a CSV, or we can save it as a forecast. And save. And then what's going to happen is the system's automatically going to save it into the forecast section, where now you'll be able to edit any of this information without it disrupting the information within the funnel. So as a salesperson, I have full ability to update, change values, change close dates, etc. And I also have an element of privacy, so this hasn't been published to anyone else. This will just be available for myself at the time being. If I select this and I edit it, I'll then be able to publish it to either myself or my line manager. So say I publish this to my line manager, I'll be able to see that that's now been published because we've got the little green icon to the right hand side. As a sales manager, what this means is I can have a number of forecasts published to me. I can select them. In a couple of seconds, I can aggregate them, so I can combine them into one. And then rather than having to export to something else, I have my forecast up here. Now what I can also do from here, see again, it's unpublished, so this is just related to me right now, is I can update any of these values and the salesperson won't be notified that I'm actually changing them. So if I'm a particularly overly optimistic salesperson, I can adjust their forecast accordingly. And I can make the changes that I need to, knowing that that's not going to be affecting their funnel and the values that they're working on in their particular opportunities. Now behind this, we've also got the totals. And essentially what we're doing here is we're looking at each individual deal, its relative phase of the funnel, the likelihood that it's going to close depending on that phase, and then we're giving you two forecasts. So we're giving you a weighted and an unweighted. So unweighted in principle is perfect. If every deal at every phase of your funnel was closed, you could expect in this scenario £800,000 worth of business. But that's not an accurate reflection of what you can actually expect to close. Considering that you might have a deal at say the third phase of your funnel and you know from experience that there's a 50% likelihood of that deal closing, then what we're going to do is return a 50% value of that deal. So a more accurate reflection of what you can expect is actually £240,000 worth of business. So it saves you having to export. If you know exactly what you're going to close in its relative phase, then you can update that information in the funnel, and then you're very quickly going to be able to build an accurate reflection of what you can expect to come in that particular time frame or forecast. There's a few other elements of SalesSeek that I'll just run you through quickly. We have this social section down here, which isn't about managing the content that's going out and rather measuring the responses that you're getting back in. So if you connect up your account, you'll start to see any time that anyone tweets you or Facebook messages you, the message will be directly brought in here. From here, you can ensure that if there's a legitimate opportunity, as in someone saying, I want to find out more about what's going on with your product, or that was a great tweet, can you tell me a bit more? You can go and assign that to a salesperson so that they can go and follow up with it. Now equally, if that's just general background chatter and you want to mark it off as done, then you have this selection over here where you can tick that box and it'll become grayed out and you know that nothing needs to be actioned with that. So if there are opportunities coming from your social media accounts, this just ensures that you don't miss them, and you can also tie this in with automations as well. Down at the bottom here, we have web. This isn't to compete with Google Analytics. That's an incredibly powerful tool if you want to drill right down into granular level detail. But what we're going to do is we're going to give you a high level overview in terms of the performance of your site over time. So you'll be able to see how many visitors, returning, registering visitors you have by day, week, month, quarter, year, whatever you're interested in. You'll see what pages people are typically coming from. So as an example from our site here, you'll be able to see Google is quite popular, and then what pages on your site people are going to. So as an example, here's our home page, our features page, but essentially it's going to allow you to understand from a sales perspective, where should I be shaping my conversations? It could be a blog post that you've not realized is particularly interesting, but essentially it's going to give you that overview about what's going on with your site. And then behind this, we also have reverse IP lookup. Now, this isn't going to tell you specifically who at an organization is viewing your site, but what it is going to do is tell you if an organization is large enough to have a fixed IP address, it's going to tell you the name of that organization that's viewing you, the date they last came on, and the total number of visits that they've had to your site. So as I say, it won't tell you specifically who, but if you're already in communication with someone or you've sent out a prospecting email to a particular target, and then someone from that organization views your site, then you can use your best judgment to decide whether that person or that organization is worth following up with, because they may have been logging into your site and they may have been viewing various pages on there. So that would be an overview of SalesSeek. If you do have any questions, please reach out to us through our site or email hello@salesseek.com, and we'll be happy to set up a demo.